What is up, guys? My name, of course, is Carlo, and welcome yet to another video, and quite an interesting video. I've had a couple of questions thrown to me via Twitter and Facebook, basically asking me how I got into visual effects and how I got into movie making, and how I was managed to do or achieve or go down the route I wanted to do. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory and tell you how it all began for me, how I found or got a passion for visual effects, and how I got a passion for movie making. So I'm going back probably about 35 years ago. And my father, bless him, just rented a film from our local video shop, and it was the 1976 version of King Kong with Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges. And it was like, Carl, you've got to watch this film, it's fantastic, so on and so on. So I said, okay, I'll sit down and watch it. So I remember him popping it in our old Sony VHS recorder with our big boxed Sony TV, and instantly when I started watching it, the opening credits just blew me away. I don't know why this happened, and I don't know why I felt the way I did, but the opening sequence, the scale of it, of the ship sailing in the water, and the credits going up with the score, and the filmmaking of Dean Laurentino, whatever his name is, it just literally blew my socks off. And I sat glued to that film from start to the end, and even the end credits, just the way it scrolled up the screen, I've never seen something so cinematic in all my life. So, like, I don't know what it was crazy, it's actually weird, and I fell in love with it. And I remember getting my old dad's old VHS camcorder. It was a big Panasonic thing, it was like that, but back then this camera was like £2,500. It was like seriously expensive. And I remember sitting it on a table and then sticking A4 pieces of paper together. Go with me on this is so cheesy. Sticking A4 pieces of paper all together in a row like a big strip, and writing credits, and then attaching the top one to a pencil and the bottom one, holding it with my feet, and then just slowly turning the pencil, putting it in front of the camera, and my writing was going up the screen to try and recreate the end credits of that film. And ever since then, it's just stuck with me. I've always been in love with film, the way they're made, the way they're scored, from the credits to the end credits. You know, to me, you know, even the credits just blew me away. How I was months figuring out how they do that. How do they get this writing on the screen, on the picture of the film? So ever since then, I've always been passionate about it, but I've never followed it through, if that makes sense. I've always thought, you know, this is too big for me to try and do filming myself. Back then, it was very difficult to create film, even though you could, because the gear was so expensive. Now, it is expensive today, but back then, you know, £2,500 for a camera was very expensive. That was the equivalent to buying a Red Scala or Red Epic camera. Having a Panasonic camera like that. My dad was always very cautious. Carl, don't play around with my camera. You know, like the same as I would if my son, my 6-year-old, would come and start playing with my Blackmagic Cinema camera or my gear. I'd be like, come on, son, leave the gear alone. It's not a toy. So it sort of started from there, and I got regular jobs doing other things, nothing to do with film. And I started sort of saving my money up to get a decent computer, get decent speakers, but I never ever followed it through, because I always thought, up until the age I was like about 28, 29, I'm now 42, thought I was beneath it. I was impossible. I could never achieve it because of the scale of what it was, and I never believed in myself. So one day I decided to try and get a job within the industry. I didn't care whether it was making tea, cups of tea, and cup of coffee, or going to get people their lunch. I didn't care. I just wanted to be around it. And I got a job working in sales for a film company. And what I meant by that, sales-wise, is basically going around to various trade shows and stuff like that, basically pitching the studio to that company and saying, look, do you want us to make a short film about your products, or about this or about that? And that's what I did. I got a job doing that. And one day the owner of the studios said to me, it'd be nice for you to actually sit in, we're working on something, a commercial, TV commercial for Norway. Do you want to sit in on the action? Do you want to sit in on the film work? And I jumped. I mean, I was like, what? Are you kidding? You know, that's like asking a bear if he likes honey, you know? I said, yeah, of course I would. Anyway, there was about 30 of us sat around this really big executive table, and I had chills running down the back of my spine hearing these guys talk about how they're doing this, how they're doing that. But at this point, I was already clued up with 3ds Max. I was already clued up with the early versions of Maya, editing from the very first Premiere Pro, so on and so on. I was already clued up because I was, constantly playing around with it on my computer. By at that point, I had my little, crappy studio, shall I say, set up, but it was working. It was slow, but it was working. I used to practice with 3ds Max. I bought books which were like about that thick on 3ds Max Studio, all these things, reading them, learning them, so on and so on. So I was already quite not 100% clued up, but I was okay. I could put things together. Until one day they were talking about an effect in this room. I'm going back to that same meeting, and it was basically a superhero flying around the city, and he was approaching this hospital, and he approached this glass window, and he looked in, and the window was frosted, and he was trying to look inside to see what was going on. Cut a long story short, don't want to bore you too much. So there was a sort of realistic thing that was missing, like his breath hitting. If it's cold, obviously you get smoke coming out of your breath, don't you? Like cold air, and that was missing in the shot. And one guy said to me, I didn't want to feel. What do you think about it, Carl? They wanted my input, which made me feel so powerful and so wanted. It was unreal. It was an amazing set of guys, And I said, I brought up the thing about the frost, the hot air coming out of the mouth. You go like, in cold weather, you can see the fog. I said, there's nothing coming out of his mouth. He's like, the visual effects guy that was doing this particular shot saying that's impossible to do, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, that's not impossible. Now, they all had these high-end laptops in front of them. They had the comps, the visual effects shots shown on a projector so everyone can see it. And I said, no, that is possible. You can do it. And there was a little bit of an argument in this room. And I said, look, I don't, I felt quite uncomfortable then. I said, look, I don't want to sort of like, mess anyone's vision up. I don't, but you can do it. So the director says to me, show me quickly. And it's a very simple composite. I think I've done a Frost tutorial composite on my channel, and that's the same sort of technique I use, but using different tracking elements in this idea. So I went bosh, 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 bosh. There's your frost, and then the guy had the smoke coming out of the ear, the frost of the cold coming out of the mouth. It, hit the window, and the window just went clear. Like the heat from the hot air from his mouth was making the frost on the window just move, and they were like, rah. Anyway, this guy, I didn't mean to make him feel a little bit shit, but I said, anything's possible if you want to do it. It's visual effects. He got shitty with me, and I tried to I didn't do it to make him look like a prick, do you know what I mean? I did it because it could be done. Don't tell someone you can't do something when it can be done, if that makes sense. So the next day I came into work to do my sales thing, and this guy quit, and I was really sort of devastated. I tried phoning him, look, what's your deal, man? We're creative artists, we need to fucking, I was only trying to help you, didn't mean to step on your toes. Anyway, the director comes to me and said, do you want his job? And I was like, well, no, not really, because that's out of order. Do you know what I mean? Look, he turned around and said, this guy had no vision, he had no heart, he had no soul, and this was before you even arrived or come to the company. Yeah, so it's not your fault. We've been planning on getting rid of this guy for a long time. We're glad he's left. Do you want to take over the position? So I said, yeah, sure. So I'm going to have to run some tests for you, but by what you showed us in that meeting, we could see your head screwed on. And that's how it all began. And I got loads of software from this company, loads of licenses given to me for the Foundry, Autodesk, so on and so on. And that's how I began with my software, believe it or not. They gave me all the licenses that I needed so I could work from home as well. And then the upgrades I would get, and then obviously upgrades for like the Foundry and stuff like that is free anyway. You could do free upgrades and to the latest version, so on and so on. Don't want to bore you too much, but that's basically how it started. That's how I got into it. And then I found love for it. I was doing work at home. Slowly, as I was getting paid, I was upgrading my system, so on and so on, until I started getting a lot of confidence in myself to do my own work and do my own things, and making phone calls, hundreds of phone calls a day to various clients. Do you need a visual effects artist? Do you need an editor? So on and so on. So I went from basically making tea to doing sales, yeah, to landing. And you could say, fucking hell, that's lucky, though. You know, you became lucky. But everyone's got a bit of luck. It's just showing that you want it hard enough. You know, going in from the start. If you want to be around it, but start off really tiny. Even if it's making teas, going to get these visual effects artists and these directors their food or their breakfast or their lunch. There's nothing wrong with it. Do you know what I mean? Because you become friends with these people, and once you become friends with these people and they know what you're capable of doing, companies like that always like to hire from the inside because they trust you, and that's why this visual effect, this studio hired me, because they like to hire within the company. Even though you're making tea and coffee, if you know your way around a computer and you're good at what you're doing, you can prove it, yeah, there's no reason why you can't continue with it. So that's basically my story, and the rest is history. Here I am now, sat in front of you guys, talking to you about visual effects and filmmaking. Got my own gear, got my own stuff, which have taken me a lot of years to build up. I didn't get all this stuff in 5 minutes, you know, blah, 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 blah. I built it up bit by bit, put my money in the bank, saving, buying this bit, buying that bit, but only buying what I needed to buy, that I needed to help me produce what I need to produce and create what I need to create. So I hope you found this informative and helpful, and it might help you, give you some pointers in the not too distant future. But as always, if you have enjoyed this video, a like rating would definitely be appreciated. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, guys.